What's up, everybody? Welcome to the End of the Bench show where the fans go. I have Kevin McBride with me today to talk about the NFC wild card round in the NFL playoffs. Kevin, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me back. Glad to be here chatting with you.
Yeah,
Love football.
I love having you on because even like before we started, like you texted me like, "Hey man, like I'm in my email, like where's the invite? Like, let's get this show on the road." Most guests I have, they're like, "All right, yeah, like whenever you send it, just let me know. Like I'll be there." But you are eager every time to come on, and I love it, and I know the fans love it too. So thank you. Just before we start, just thank you very much for taking the time always for the End of the Bench show.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Kev. So obviously we had we had you on the NFC because you're a Rams fan. So we're gonna save the Rams for last. Because I think we could also have some fun between me and you. We could go back to our NFC West preview that we did way back like 4 months ago for that. But we're gonna start with the Washington football team and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are playing either Saturday or Sunday. I honestly don't even have the schedule up in front of me. I just have the bracket. But one of those days, if you turn on football at 1, 4, 8 o'clock, you will see this game. Kev, I will let you start. I guess just like a little high level of each team. Like, what are your just general thoughts about this matchup?
Yeah. There's a few things I think about this matchup. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is like, there's a few players that come to mind, right? Obviously, it's Brady versus Alex Smith. Any matchup you have in the NFL nowadays, it's going to be quarterback versus quarterback. And so that's kind of a headline, Brady versus Smith. But you know what? I kind of see it as like this, like almost like geeks versus jocks kind of game, right? Like one team's been expecting to be here all along, and the other team's like, oh my God, I can't believe we were invited to the prom. Like, like these are like kind of the ways I look at it. And so I do think that Washington has some things going for them, but I think we all know that Tampa's meant to be here, and I think they are probably looking past Washington, and that's not healthy. That's not good, right? No team should be looking past anybody in the playoffs, but that's kind of how I see it. I do see Brady and Smith as a highlight. Any other players that you see as standouts in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I see Chase Young because I saw a video clip of him today. I don't know if it was after week 17. I'd imagine it was because of what he said. He was like, give me Tom. I want Tom. I want Tom. And I'm just like in my head thinking like, yeah, you may want Tom and you may get to Tom a couple times this game. But other than that, like what's your hope, Chase Young? Like team's probably going to get fucking run out the building here. Especially because what worries me, Kev, is I think like the one game that Tampa like really clicked on all cylinders was the game against the Packers earlier in the season. And a big part of that game was Todd Bowles just unleashed the blitz on Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers is not Lamar Jackson, but he can escape with the best of them. Alex Smith, I mean, we all know the Alex Smith story by now. He's not escaping a Todd Bowles blitz. Like, he's just not. And I don't know how
he's not. You're right.
like I don't like that's what it comes down to me. Like I think Washington's defense can do a fine job against Tom Brady, like a decent job. But at the end of the day, I don't see the Washington football team scoring enough points against Tampa. Like I think that's what it really comes down to for me. Like I know that's not like amazing analysis. Like, Tampa's going to probably score more points than Washington, so obviously they're going to win. But like, Alex Smith concerns me. I think it's an amazing story, and you already hear Ron Rivera hinting that like he may not play the whole game because he doesn't know how he's going to hold up. Yeah. And if that's the case, I mean, it's over. It's almost over before it starts in my brain.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I definitely want to build on Chase Young, and there's other pass rushers I want to talk about too.
Yeah.
I think really early in the season, we found out, hey, Chase Young's pretty special, and then he got hurt. And it was after the bye week in which he came back, I looked up some stats. The Washington football team defense over the last 7 games since their bye week, they've had 19 sacks, 7 straight games of interceptions with 8 interceptions and 6 sacks. So, sorry, 6 fumble recovery. So they are putting the ball on the ground and they're taking away in the air. Like, Chase Young affects every single part of that defense, and ever since he's come back from the bye week, they're pretty good. So he is definitely someone that, you know, you can build a whole defense around. They have so many first-round picks to complement him on the D-line. So it just finally is clicking in Washington with Chase Young. But you mentioned Todd Bowles. Other people that I want to talk about too. Some pass rushers that I'm looking at. I want to see Shaquille Barrett, JPP, get after Alex Smith. You know, I think these are 2 guys that JPP, you know, I think this year he's had a really, really great season because he's not the number 1, right? Jack Barrett has had really great seasons back. And so it's cool. It's cool to see those 2 guys, you know, be a tandem this year. But, you know, if you can make Alex Smith be a one-dimensional quarterback, you're right. He can't move out of the pocket, and he's not going to be able to be mobile. But if you take away Antonio Gibson and then you expect him to throw to J.D. McKissick and Terry McLaurin all day, you know, maybe Tampa will be able to find a way to
and Logan Thomas.
Edge them out. You're right. Logan Thomas has had a great year too, but I think there's some weapons on Tampa's defense that'll take away someone like a Jordan Thomas, right?
Yeah.
You know, Devin White at linebacker, Jordan Whitehead. You know, these are guys that are having really good years. Winfield Jr., man, he's like a defensive rookie player of the year candidate. So I think I don't see Washington having the multi-dimensional offense to beat Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, and this is going to be something we'll talk about in the next matchup too. Like, I think Washington's best bet is to make the game ugly. You know, a lot of runs, a lot of like just dink and dunks down the field, keep Tom Brady and the Buccaneers offense off the field. And just because their defense is good enough to win games. I don't know if it's good enough to beat a fully functional Tom Brady-led offense in the playoffs, but their defense is good enough to cause problems for Tom Brady. So if you keep him off the field and you make the most out of every possession possible and make it a little ugly, like I think that's Washington's play. I don't know if that's going to be like an entertaining game to watch personally, but I think that's Washington's only shot here. And obviously I want Washington to have a shot because I don't want Tom Brady to succeed as a Jet fan, even though he's a Buccaneer. So I need him to fail.
No, absolutely. I don't I think overall, looking at the teams as a whole, I really see it at, you know, the other day when I read something that was like, man, we need to name the Comeback Player of the Year award after Alex Smith. You know, I bet you that post was made by some Washington football fan, and they're happy they're in the playoffs. But you know what, man? It's almost like Washington's satisfied with their season at the moment, and like if they were to lose, they'd still be happy. But I definitely know Tampa Bay's expectations were just too high this season to go out in the first round of the playoffs to Washington. Yeah. So, you know, when I look at this game, it's almost like one team's satisfied with where they're at and the other team is still hungry because their expectations are so high.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I mean, I think like, you know, Washington won the division at 7-9, so I think they should be happy just to be here. And I think like, I think Alex Smith's story is truly remarkable, and so I think he should be happy to, you know, he should be happy to still like be able to walk, let alone play football. So I think like Washington generally is a, you know, a pretty feel good story, and the fact that they don't have a name like that makes it even better. But yeah, I agree with you. Like Tampa is supposed to be here, and Washington, like, I mean, they won the games in front of them when it mattered, but like they're probably not supposed to be here either. You know, do you think Washington? Right. Do you think Washington is like the rightful champion of the NFC East, or do you think like there's another team that like they just got robbed and they should have won the division?
That's a great question. You know, if Dak had stayed healthy, I really don't think there's a question, right? Dak made Ezekiel Elliott better. You know, other guys on the Cowboys had good years, right? But you know, all
Yeah,
faith in that organization as soon as he went down. So
I
I don't know.
agree.
You know, I would have liked to seen the Giants compete for it, but that
Hmm.
didn't happen. I just think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's any team from the NFC East that's really deserving.
Yeah, no.
I guess Washington came out on top.
Do you think Giants Buccaneers would be a better game than Washington Buccaneers?
Hmm.
And that may be unfair
No,
to
that's a
ask
good.
because we haven't even picked it yet. For all I know, you're going to pick Washington to win. So I don't know.
No, I would say in both matchups,
Yeah,
Tampa would be favored, and
of course.
I think there's a lot of surprise that Washington's here.
Yeah. To put it
And
mildly.
to put it mildly, to put it mildly. I know you want to do some predictions, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a
So,
score?
I wasn't going to do scores, just going to do like the spread. I'm not smart
Okay.
enough to do this to do the score like off the top. Like that's not going to happen. But yeah, let's pick it. So this game I found out is Saturday, 8:15 NBC. What a wonderful day to end. What a wonderful game to end the first wild card day of the NFL. The spread right now on Bleacher Report is 8.5 or eight. Yeah, it's 8 points. Tampa's favored. Um, so what do you got, Kev? I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I have a feeling, like I said, you know, I think one of these teams is satisfied with their season and the other one
Yep.
still has more to go. And so I have a lot higher than 8. I have my spread somewhere around like 11.
Okay, that's fair. And you still got the Tampa winning, obviously. Then
Yeah, Tampa
yeah.
winning. Yep.
See, it's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough
Yeah.
for me, Kev. It really is because like I could be completely wrong. I just feel like I haven't seen Tampa click consistently all year. And like, I don't know what Mike Evans is going to be like this year, if he's even going to be able to at this week, if he's going to play.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, I mean, I think the pass rush could bother Tom Brady. Like we've seen that happen in the past. I think Tampa's going to win, but I would not be shocked if it was a touchdown game at the end of the
Yep.
day.
Yeah.
But it's at
Yeah.
8. I gotta pick. I gotta go one way though.
Yeah, I think Tampa's going to come out on top,
Yeah.
but it can't all be Tom Brady. You know, we had discussed the Packer game where they beat the Packers earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up some stats. Ronald
Mm-hmm.
Jones carried the ball 23 times in that game. That's the kind of play you need out of your running backs on these kind of
Yeah.
games, right? Like Tom Brady's going to get you places, but you can't rely on him to throw the ball 40 times in the first round versus Washington. So they definitely need to come up with a game plan and a specific style to make sure they are running the ball and chipping away, getting high scores, and letting Tom Brady be Tom Brady. But I do see a pretty high scoring game for one side.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go Tampa -8 because Washington +8 is like a little cute, and on the rare chance that someone takes my prediction and like puts money on it, I don't want to be responsible for that. So I'll go Tampa -8 because I think that's a safer play. What's interesting, Kev, is like if you do, like if someone wants to tease this game, they can get the Buccaneers at like -2, which is like a lock. Right? There's no chance the Buccaneers don't. I mean, that's basically saying is Tampa going to win? That's an obvious yes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, so let's go to the next game that we're going to talk about is the Bears and Saints. So this game is on Sunday at 4:40 on CBS. And Kev, I don't want to say that I have no interest in watching any playoff game, but on my list of 6 games, I mean this is number 6, maybe number 5 over Tampa and Washington, but this is definitely on the low end of desire to watch this game, which is a tough start for the preview, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear you. No, I hear you. Yeah, I was just talking earlier about how, when you look at playoff games, you look at
Yep.
quarterback versus quarterback. I'm
Yeah.
looking at my notes that I made here, and none of my notes talk about anything about either quarterback, just because I'm not inspired. I'm not
Yeah.
inspired anymore by Drew Brees, and I do have faith in Mitch Trubisky.
It's
Um,
wild to say. It's so
and
wild.
that is, dude, that is wild to say. But you know what's a really wild thing to say too is where would the Bears be if they didn't pull him? The Bears might not be
Mm,
playing the Saints if they pulled him right now. They might be
yeah.
playing someone else, right? They might be playing Washington, which is a weird thing to be thinking about. Like there are all these weird things to think that like Mitch Trubisky, you know, I actually might have a little bit more confidence going into this game than Drew Brees
Yeah.
because I know Taysom Hill is going to play a role, and maybe there might be a few passes or
Hmm.
catches or runs, but I don't know. Like I'm really the player that I'm looking forward to seeing is
Hmm.
Michael Thomas. If Michael Thomas plays, the Saints will win. He has only played a few games this season. I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah.
7. And out of the 7 games he's played, they've won 6 of them when he's on the field. And I'm
Right.
pretty sure he's responsible for probably 8 targets every time and a handful of catches. He's that kind of
Yeah.
player. And
Yeah.
so I'm looking to see if Michael Thomas plays. That's the guy who I want to see because Alvin Kamara is going to be Alvin Kamara. But if Michael Thomas is out there, the Bears defense has a lot more to worry about, regardless
Yeah.
if Drew Brees or Taysom Hill's the quarterback.
Yeah. I think the whole point of putting Michael Thomas on the IR when they did was so that he could play in the playoffs. So I'd have to imagine he's going to suit up. Um, I mean, let's put it this way: if he's not on IR, he's suiting up regardless. Even if he doesn't play, he's going to
Yep.
suit up. But I
Yep.
think he'll play. Um, I talked like briefly about in Washington, Tampa, of how this game has to get ugly for Washington to win. I think as well as Trubisky has played this season, which again I just never anticipated myself saying that for a very long time. But he really did play well this year. I think the Bears' best bet, and we saw it on Sunday when they played the Packers in Week 17. You just have to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, and don't put too much on Trubisky. Keep Drew Brees or whoever's quarterback on the sideline. It will be Drew Brees, but obviously Taysom will be involved, like you said, and hope for the best. Because I don't think we're not like when we say Drew Brees, this is not the Drew Brees of 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
I mean, let alone the fact that he broke like 6 ribs or whatever this year. Like, it's I don't understand. Like I had a bruised rib, Kevin, and I couldn't do anything for like 2 weeks. And these people break ribs, and like 4 weeks later, they're playing in the fucking NFL again. Like, I guess that's why I'm an accountant. Um,
Oh, dude, I hear you, man. I hear you. Like
I just don't get it.
this is why they get paid millions of dollars to be. But I agree with you, man. It's hard to know that Drew Brees is at 100%.
Yeah.
Um, Throwing the ball down the field, climbing up in the pocket, staying in there for that hit. Right. This is the
Hmm.
playoffs, man. Guys are gonna want to lay him out,
And the
and
Bears can.
yeah, and they absolutely can. So definitely Michael Thomas is the one that I'm looking forward to on the Saints. Anyone you're
Hmm.
looking for on the other side of the ball for the Bears?
I'm looking forward to seeing David Montgomery. Because I think the Saints defense is pretty good. I don't know like their numbers, but I know like it's a pretty good defense. Trubisky, obviously quarterback being extremely important. I think Montgomery is the most important player on their offense. Just
Mm-hmm.
from every game that I've watched of the Bears, like that's the sense I get. Um, and like honestly, like if it's David Montgomery or Cordero Patterson as his backup, like I think if we get to Cordero Patterson in this game, it's not going to be a recipe for success for the Bears. Um, so I think Montgomery on the offensive side is someone I'm really interested to see. I mean, Khalil Mack has been quiet
Yeah.
for the most part this season.
Yep.
And I mean, this is showtime if you're Khalil Mack. Like this is what the Bears traded for him for. So I mean, Drew Brees ain't moving away. So if Khalil Mack gets to him, it's probably going to go on the ground. And I
Yeah.
think, obviously Khalil Mack's going to be super important. The whole defensive box is going to be important because of Drew Brees' lack of mobility,
Yeah.
just being able to hit him, especially if Taysom Hill comes into the game too.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would lean, Montgomery, and obviously the Saints, like the big ones, Kamara, Michael Thomas. I don't care about Taysom Hill. Like I don't enjoy watching him. I don't know how you feel about him, but I don't enjoy it at all. Like people love him. I get it. Like it's fun, it's cool, whatever. I could care less.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the same about Taysom Hill. I think it's more of a college style.
Yeah.
It's more of a college style to I don't know, bring in that guy, whatever. But some players that I definitely wanted to mention. I'm glad you mentioned Khalil Mack. His counterpart that also needs to step up, Akeem Hicks.
Yeah.
Right. This guy has been such a stud. When Mack was the best, edge rusher in the league, he was. They were 1 and 2 at their, at their positions respectively in the league, and so, these two guys got to be in sync on the line, and they got to make sure that they get after Breeze and they contain Kamara and all these things. So absolutely, Mack and Hicks are the guys on the defensive front for the Bears that I'm looking at. I'm glad you mentioned Montgomery too. The guy's been a stud. Yep. Something that I've looked at, right? Not Kamara, Montgomery's surgence over the last few weeks. I think there's a reason why. And you had asked, hey, give me some guys that are obvious ones and some underground guys to look at. Cole Kmet, I'm a draft nerd. Cole Kmet's a rookie. His snaps have gone up significantly over the last 6 weeks, and I'm pretty sure it's because Jimmy Graham's having a good year too, right? He's always a threat in the passing game, but someone like Cole Kmet, I really do think that the Bears are able to run their zone scheme because they're running a lot of 2 tight end sets. And so Cole Kmet is that blocking tight end that they need, but also gives Trubisky so many other options on the shorter end of stuff, which we know Trubisky is sometimes a check down king.
Yeah.
I really think Cole Kmet is someone who makes David Montgomery's job a lot easier in their zone running scheme and can peel off on smaller routes that Jimmy Graham doesn't run to be able to get hit by Trubisky out in the flat or over the middle, things like that. So that's my player I'm watching. Jimmy Graham's been doing well,
which is great to see.
But I think the reason why Jimmy Graham's been doing so well is because someone like Cole Kmet on the field takes a little bit of attention off him.
And he's able to do all the things that Jimmy Graham isn't really great at. The blocking part of his game that's just not there at this point in Jimmy Graham's career. One thing I want to ask you about, so we mentioned a lot, David Montgomery, Cole Kmet, mentioned Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
The big receiving threat on the Bears is Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
You would imagine he will be shadowed all day long by Lattimore. So what else do the Bears have for Trubisky to throw to? Is it just going to be all check downs to tight ends? I know they had a wide receiver who played pretty well in Week 17. I'm forgetting his name. I think he's a rookie.
Mooney. Last name's Mooney.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's that or bust then.
Yeah, I wouldn't say bust. Late in the season, 2019, pretty sure Anthony Miller went on a tear, and I really liked Anthony Miller coming out of Memphis. Okay. And so I thought, hey, maybe Anthony Miller could be the wide receiver 2 on this team, but Mooney's someone that's more of a deep threat. I think I don't know whether he plays outside or in the slot, but it doesn't really matter. He gets hit down deep, and I do think Lattimore is going to shadow Robinson.
Yeah.
But man, Allen Robinson is someone I'm impressed with. I really do. I really do doubt him. I'm not going to lie. Going into most seasons, I'm like, he's Allen Robinson. But I really do think he's a guy that you could probably rely on. That he might get 10 catches in the game, and it might be a quiet 10 catches, but he moves the sticks, gets a few slant routes and a few button hooks on Lattimore. He doesn't have to burn the defense every time. He just needs to be able to be something that Mitch Trubisky can rely on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Allen Robinson could have a quiet day against the Saints defense. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I was just thinking as you were talking, I saw an article once. I was trying to find it while you were talking, but I couldn't. Of like all the shitty quarterbacks that Allen Robinson has had to endure in his career, because you think of everything he had in Jacksonville, which was shit, and then I think no, I mean Mitch Trubisky is probably the best quarterback he's had, and no offense to Mitch Trubisky, but coming into the season, that wasn't really a compliment. That was just the company that he kept. But I agree with you. Like I think Allen Robinson is going to obviously be involved regardless of Lattimore shadowing him, because you simply you have to try to get him involved. Like it doesn't, like I think, like you said, they'll make the routes work. I don't think they're going to be very aggressive down the field anyway. Because I don't think that's going to be the recipe for success for the Bears. I think that's playing right into the Saints' hands. One thing I wanted to talk to you about also in this game that I just forgot. Well, that's not good. That's not good podcasting.
Well, hey,
all right.
I can mention a player that you talked about earlier, Cordarrelle Patterson.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Going into this, you had asked, hey, look at offense and defense and special teams. I would say the Saints probably edge out the Bears on offense and defense. Yeah. I would give the Bears special teams. I would give them the edge over the Saints special teams. And the Saints have a really good special teams unit. But the Bears, specifically Cordarrelle Patterson, they lead the league in return yards, kickoff return yards specifically. Mm-hmm. So, these are big chunk plays. When people are like, oh, how do the Bears, how do the Bears, win games, right? When their field position is starting at the 50 sometimes, right? They're guaranteed to at least put points on the board. I understand Mitch Trubisky might not march you down every drive and have you score points, but you know what? Like if Cordarrelle Patterson rips one off for an awesome gain or even a touchdown, I wouldn't be surprised. So there's a player that you had mentioned earlier that I definitely think gives the Bears a little bit of an edge. Maybe not in the backfield as like a running back too behind Montgomery, but he has to definitely be someone who gets his touches in the punt return game and the kick return game.
I would just be surprised on the kick return game because they are playing in New Orleans, so I'd have to imagine the way these kickers kick the ball nowadays that they're just going to kick it out of the end zone. And I mean, it worries me because everything you said is great because the Chicago Bears offense isn't going to set the world on fire. So whenever Patterson can get them off to a good start on the return, it's obviously going to help. But I worry. I mean, not that it affects my life at all, but I hope they're not relying too much on it because if you're playing in a dome, I'd have to imagine it's going to go out of the end zone more often than not. Whereas when they play half their games in Chicago and it's windy as hell, they probably have a little more, return opportunities. But I mean, that's getting way too into the weeds for this. So I think we're good on that. Let's pick it because I have nothing left for this matchup. So right now the Saints are favored by 10 points. This is what I believe the highest spread of the weekend. Yes, it is. I am going to say the Bears cover this 10 point spread. I think the Saints will win, but I think the Bears cover the 10 points.
Okay.
What do you think?
I put some scores on this.
Okay.
I think the Bears might make it a little closer than 10. But I would say the Bears -5. I'm going to say 33-28 is the score that I had.
And the Bears winning?
No. Sorry, did I say that wrong?
Yeah, you said Bears -5.
Sorry. The Saints would win. The Saints would win by 5. Sorry, I said that wrong. Saints would win by 5.
Okay, that's fair.
Saints -5. I said that wrong. I was looking at the. I just read what I saw.
That's all good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to trust the Saints defense who,
Mm-hmm.
the Saints defense led up the Minneapolis Miracle, right? The Saints defense
Yeah.
led up big plays against the Rams to let them down into the red zone to have that, no call that was so controversial, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to trust the Saints D when they have been so good. But you know what? Like, if Mitch Trubisky that played against the Atlanta Falcons in Week 3 shows up,
Mm-hmm.
where he was like lighting it up in the first half, and like hey, maybe you don't pull that guy. Maybe you
Yeah.
let him continue to play. And the Bears have a little bit different outlook right now. So I don't know. I think the Bears are going to make it a little closer than 10.
Yeah.
I do still think the Saints win by 5.
What I like about your pick is that no, I agree, obviously, but do you think the Bears could really score 28 points? I mean, that means they score touchdowns, and that's something they struggled with most recently on Week 17. That's what I keep going back to because I think that's like one of the very few Bears games I was able to watch this year. I think like I said, like I think the Bears are going to think and dunk and make it ugly. But if that only results in field goals at the end of the day, that's going to be their downfall. If they score 28 points, honestly, I think they could win. But I don't know if they could. I don't know if they score 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I was being a little generous with 28. I really thought of it as of, late in games if teams really want it. I don't know if I trust the Saints defense to stop people, and so I'm not saying they're going to score a game-winning touchdown, but they might score a late touchdown.
That's true.
I don't know. I can't predict these things. But,
no, very few can. Only Vegas, unfortunately, sadly, somehow.
Vegas.
All right. So before we get into this final game, when we previewed the NFC West, Kev,
yeah,
you came on. It was early in the morning for me. I think it was a weekend. I thanked you for coming on by saying the Rams would come in last place in the NFC West. To my credit, that was before the whole 49ers team died. But the Rams obviously overperformed my prediction. And I think because I picked them to come in last, that's the reason the Jets beat them. So the Jets lost out on Trevor Lawrence because I said the Rams were going to come in last place before the season started. Is where we end up. I don't get it. I don't think I've ever been so wrong on a team, and it really bothered me. But like, it is what it is.
That was a tough day for anyone that watched that game.
Yeah.
If you were a Rams fan, your heart was broken. And if you were a Jets fan, your heart was broken. And so,
yeah. Yes, it was.
It was a tough day of football, but I don't know, man. The Jets winning the next week didn't make it any better.
No, it didn't. The Cleveland Browns, they literally when the Browns played the Jets the next week, they had no receivers, and they ran the ball like 8 times. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But I don't want to digress. The Rams, the Seahawks, Saturday, 4:40. This is probably the best game of the slate in the NFC, I would say. I mean, the spread also says it. Maybe the most competitive game of the day outside of maybe Colts Bills on Saturday. I think first things first with the Rams, I'm obviously going to let you drive a lot of this conversation. But what is going on with Jared Goff? Do you think Goff's going to play? How do you think he's going to be if he does play, et cetera?
Yeah. So I watched the game that he got hurt, and I was super, super impressed that he had played through. I'd watched sideline footage of him trying to grip a ball, and he was like, man, no, I can't do this. And, he played through that game, which was great. He didn't practice earlier in this week, but I think I saw something earlier today that he did practice, which is good. I think it's smart for – I think it's smart for Sean McVay to say, hey, I'm not going to name the starter yet.
Of course.
I think there's a little bit of like an element of surprise. I got to give a little nod to my dad and his older Ram friends, right? We all have our text message
Yeah.
thread. And one of the guys was like, I don't know why they would name a starting quarterback. It's like why would you name a starting pitcher? Like it only helps the other team to let them know, like
Hmm.
more preparation, a little bit more charisma going into it.
Yeah.
And so, obviously as a Rams fan, I want to see Jared Goff start. As a football fan, I want to see Jared Goff start.
Right.
But last week just showed me, and I guess some other football fans, Sean McVay can put a quarterback out there and kind of make it to his skill set.
Hmm.
And not that the Rams win was the prettiest win, but it's what it is.
Yeah.
And
A
so
win's a win.
I do trust Jared Goff, but I don't know which Jared Goff is going to show up.
Hmm.
Is the Jared Goff who throws an arid pass to the middle of the field versus the Jets? Like that was the worst. That was probably the worst interception I've ever seen. And it was just like a terrible play. And
Yeah.
like, Jared Goff sometimes looks like the number one overall pick, and sometimes he looks like that. And I wish there was a little bit more consistency,
Hmm.
but I don't know. The Rams are lucky that Jared Goff can play, but if John Walford's in the game, the style of play that the Rams offense is going to have is totally going to change.
Yeah. I think what the Rams have going for them is even like if Goff doesn't play and they go with the backup, they're not playing the Seahawks defense of old. I mean, I think Sean McVay is a good enough offensive mind. And look, like we always say, like, look, if you give a decent quarterback good weapons, the quarterback will be just fine. And the Rams have weapons on the outside, good running game, so I think that, and they have a good defense to try to stop Russ Wilson. So I think like the Rams can come away with this game even if Goff doesn't play. I think obviously, Jared Goff is an upgrade over their backup. That's why the backup is the backup. But I don't know. I'm very interested to see DK Metcalf versus Jalen Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
At least I hope that's the matchup. I hope that's who Ramsey is shadowing. I would have to imagine it is. I just think that's going to be fun as hell because
Yeah.
DK likes to talk and we know Jalen likes to talk, and that's going to be a fun matchup to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely a little budding rivalry.
Yep.
Guys are super, super talented. I think Ramsey's definitely going to shadow him, and he's done a really good job against him. I don't know the stats, but man, I don't know. I just know DK Metcalf is an animal, and and Jalen Ramsey's really great. I really do think he's great, and I think at some point, right, Jalen Ramsey might make that boneheaded play that he had made when he was back at Jacksonville and Florida State, right? Like these are the plays that he had made. All right. Don't get me wrong, guys has probably the best build for a corner you could ask for. He's super talented. He's a lockdown guy. But DK Metcalf is gonna try and muscle his way at every yard. Because I'm pretty sure it's what he's responsible for like 90, averaging 90 yards every game at least. Like,
I don't know if that's accurate, but I'm not going to dispute you because I could definitely believe it. I'm going to pull up his Pro Football Reference right now and see if I can find it.
Yeah, awesome. I think a guy that I'm looking for in the Seahawks passing game is Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett has had some games in the past where he's gone off, 100+ yards and 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns right against the I forget who was it a few weeks. It was earlier in the season, but Tyler Lockett had an absolutely amazing game.
Yeah.
The Rams secondary is great. The Rams might have the best defense in the NFL, but is Tyler Lockett going to be able to run those routes against some of those secondary corners while Ramsey has his responsibility? Is Tyler Lockett going to be able to cut the seams on John Johnson and other guys that the Rams have out there. The Rams secondary is really, really, really good, and I know DK is going to have his assignment, and
Mm-hmm.
what's Tyler Lockett going to do? That's someone
Yeah.
who I hope doesn't torch us and burn us on a lot of plays.
Yeah, I mean, and I looked it up. DK Metcalf averaged 81 receiving yards a game this
All
year,
right.
which is pretty good. I think you mentioned Tyler Lockett, which I would appreciate you doing because um, Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson to me just have like this Tom Brady, Julian Edelman type connection.
Yep.
They've been there, done that in so many big games together. I mean, I guess it's kind of like Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, and I mean, at this point, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams even. Um, I think that although DK is more talented, I don't think we can dispute that. Um, I think Lockett will just find a way to get open because it just seems to be like what he does in big games. I can't remember watching a big game in Tyler Lockett's NFL career where he didn't show up. And I could be completely wrong. I mean, we may be able to look up a fucking stat right now that'll say, no, Scott, actually his last game in the playoffs, he played like dog shit. And I'm like, okay, I was wrong. But to my memory, however good or bad it may be, I can't remember Tyler Lockett just completely no showing a big game or a big moment with Russell Wilson. And I think that I'm just excited to see what that moment's going to be because I think of all the games that we've talked about today and that I talked about yesterday with Pat on the AFC preview.
Yep.
This game to me has the biggest potential to have like one of those playoff moments that we remember. Obviously, I think the Ravens Titans also has that potential, but yeah, I think the Rams defense can be very focused on DK Metcalf and just knowing Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson's chemistry at the end of the day, that worries me. But like you said, the Rams defense is no slouch. They're obviously thinking the same things. Like I'm sure they'll be fine. What the Seahawks offensive line should be worrying about is the big man, Aaron Donald. Because, I mean, Russell Wilson's going to have his hands full if they can't block Aaron Donald. And if they can't block him, it may be a pretty ugly game for the Seahawks fans to watch.
No, Aaron Donald's had his fair share of wreckage versus the Seahawks.
Well, versus everyone, to be fair.
To be fair, he's very fun to watch, and I'm really glad he's on my team. No, he's really, 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 really fun to watch. Probably a Hall of Famer. Most definitely a Hall of Famer. But you know what, man? Russell Wilson's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I definitely know when we talked earlier, I was like, hey, don't tell anybody, but I'm going to take Russell Wilson with my first round.
Yeah.
I did. And hey, man, I won for the second year in a row. So I think Russell Wilson carried me this year. And I'm not going to lie, I love Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
It's not fun to be facing him in the first round of the playoffs. But you know what? I'm excited to see is what is Russell Wilson going to do against Aaron Donald and company. He's not afraid to move around.
Mm-hmm.
I swear, Russell Wilson always makes the right decision. He's lethal with his feet and his arm and his mind. It's always a threat. So I love watching Aaron Donald play and I love watching him cream Russell Wilson, but Russell might cook and there might be some Russell magic and who knows?
Yeah.
DK connection to Lockett. It could be something. I know Chris Carson's been really active in the passing game too.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a matchup that the Seahawks totally exploit. The Rams are not very good, even depth-wise at linebacker, and they don't really have much coverage skills there. They have a really great secondary and a really, really good line, and I think they've been able to fill in and draft some guys for the middle of the defense that aren't studs, but they're getting the job done. So who knows?
It's interesting. It's interesting, right? To say on one hand, like you have the supreme trust in Russell Wilson, but you also have supreme trust in the Rams defense. So it's like, which force is going to win out? I think I'm leaning towards like trusting the Rams defense a little more because I don't want to like ever pick against Aaron Donald. Like, and I think it's that simple to me. Like, I think like Vegas has the spread at 3.5. I think it's perfect. I think it's going to be an extremely close game. The fact that it is 3.5, I will say, leads me to believe that Goff is 100% going to play.
Yeah, in all honesty, when I thought of the prediction earlier today, I didn't know that Goff was practicing, and so
Yeah.
I, I don't know. I am confident in the Rams defense. I'm not ultra confident in Jared Goff. And even if he does get hurt, right, that's not going to help our offense. And so yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm excited to see the game, but you're right. It's funny. I do really enjoy watching Russell Wilson, but man, the Rams defense is really, really great.
Yeah. I really don't have anything else on the game, so if you want to go ahead and pick it, and then we can talk a little bit about the Packers, and then we could head out. So who do you got, Kev? I mean, I'm assuming you're gonna go Rams, but I don't know. You're a free man. You could do whatever you want. So who do you got?
Yeah, I initially had the Seahawks winning this game by 3 points.
Okay.
And I feel like a cheat and a liar to myself if I go against that. I love the Rams; they are my team. But there's just a few things that I think are question marks. Right? It's great that the Rams are going to get Andrew Whitworth back, but who knows how healthy he's going to be. It's great that the Rams are going to get Jared Goff back. Who knows how healthy he's going to be. The Rams have been, riding Cam Akers, for a while. Is that sustainable? He is a rookie. There are other guys on the roster, but if you're going to have a not healthy quarterback and a shaky, thin running back core, it's going to be a tough day for your offense. And so the Rams defense is great, but I do see the Seahawks possibly winning this game at home by 3 points.
Kev, I really admire you staying true to your word. I will say you could have just picked the Rams +3. They still could have lost, but you could have at least picked your team.
They are my team. Then they were my team. But they're just I did my homework, and there are just some things that there's just some things that I know, right? With the spread being close, right? When the Rams usually win these games, they usually win them big. And when the Seahawks win, they usually win them close. Okay. So if the spread's going to be close, I do think the Seahawks will win. But there's also some other things that I think come down to this game. We've looked at special teams for every other matchup.
Yeah.
I did a little research. Both teams are top 5 in punting teams inside the 20. So that means field position is going to be a huge role in this game.
Yeah.
And so that also went a little bit to my decision as well. If field position is going to be a big aspect, you have 90 yards to go on a drive. I think Russell Wilson has a lot more ability to throw that get that throw that can get you 90 yards down in the field more than a weak hand Jared Goff or even a John Wolford. But I love my Rams. I want them to win. I hope they win. But I did my homework. I did my research, and I think the Rams might fall short. 3 points to Seattle.
Well, it's like, picking the Seahawks, you can't lose because either you win and your pride stays intact, or the Seahawks lose and you're just happy because you're a Rams fan. So you did.
I would not want my season to be over, but you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
My season was over week 2, so I don't feel bad for you either way. I'm gonna go Rams +3.5.
What a guy!
Because I think it's gonna be a 3-point game. I think the 0.5 will save me there.
Excellent.
Let's talk a little bit because on the AFC, we did talk about the Chiefs a little. The Chiefs is obviously a different conversation than the Packers because, the question in the AFC is, does anything really matter? Can anyone actually beat the Chiefs? I don't think, we have that question with the Packers. But I guess I'll ask it to you. Do you see the Packers just running away regardless of who they have to face, or is there a team or a couple of teams that you think give them a pretty good run for their money to make it to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, yeah. On the NFC side, outside of Tampa Bay, who we know has beaten them earlier in the season,
Yeah.
I don't. I don't see a team contending with them. And I swear, you could ask my wife. I said earlier, before the season even started, my
Yeah.
Super Bowl pick was going to be Packers versus Chiefs. And it just so happens to be those two teams are the number one seed right now. And I can see it. I can absolutely see the Packers. I could absolutely see the Packers riding Aaron Rodgers' MVP season to the Super Bowl, and him going toe to toe against, Patrick Mahomes could be an awesome headline. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about the Packers, man. There's a lot of things outside of Aaron Rodgers that we can talk about in this game, or sorry, for them in the future.
For sure. I mean, Aaron Rodgers obviously the big one. Aaron Jones, another big one. Devontae Adams. Um, they just look like a complete football team, which is kind of weird to say because I think like before the season, I wasn't completely sold on their roster, like how they handled the draft or free agency and whatever. But I don't know if it's just Aaron Rodgers' greatness masking all of those problems that I saw in the beginning of the year, or if I was just dead wrong, which is obviously a possibility. But they just look like a complete football team, and I actually agree with you that I think someone in the AFC could take down the Chiefs more than I think someone in the NFC could take down the Packers right now.
I like that a lot. Who's someone you think of?
In the AFC, I mean, in the AFC, I think the Bills is like the sexy pick to upset the Chiefs, which I can see. And then Pat and I just talked about yesterday, like, you think like the key to beating the Chiefs is you have to try to keep Mahomes off the field. And even at that point, like he literally only needs like a minute to put up a touchdown. So like how effective is that strategy? But it just made me thinking like, I don't know if the Browns somehow have to face them or the Titans have to face them and they could just run the ball, keep Mahomes off the field. Like, I don't know. I think that has potential. I think the Bills is obviously a safer upset pick. But then I also think like we haven't seen the Chiefs like turn on a switch this year. They haven't even broken a sweat, and they're one of if they're not the best team in football right now, they're the second best team in football. So it's just like it's so hard to read, But I just think the AFC is more talented than the NFC, which really is the reason why I say that.
Yeah, no, it's the NFC definitely has a lot more. I don't want to say questions because when Washington comes from the NFC, and you got two people from the NFC South who you expected, right? These are all teams. I don't know. If we could briefly talk about the AFC, the team that I would have my eye on that no one is talking about, the Indianapolis Colts. They have the best defense outside of the Rams, and if Phillip Rivers, who is familiar with playing in the AFC West, could go into Kansas City and play a game that Phillip Rivers, who has probably been destined to play for a while, right? Who knows? If Phillip Rivers does really well, even if he doesn't do well, Jonathan Taylor's been hot. And you can ride that rookie into the playoffs. If you have a great defense like they do, and a consistent quarterback like Phillip Rivers. So I don't want to get too much into the AFC because I know we are focusing on the NFC, but that's my dark horse is the Colts to upset either the Chiefs or, like you said, the Bills to upset the Chiefs. Colts could upset the Bills.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead, but if they do that, then they upset the Bills and the Chiefs in back-to-back weeks because they would play each other in the divisional round. But I'm with you. I was high on the Colts this year also. I picked them to win the AFC South, which, I didn't technically get right, but the Titans won by the second tiebreaker because
Yeah.
they split the
Yeah.
head-to-head. So I mean, I wasn't right, but I was pretty close to right. So I'm with you there. I think that'd be interesting. But like you said, we are going to stay on the NFC the whole way through, me and you, up until the Super Bowl, where we kind of serve as I've been calling like the legal team or debate team of the NFC. Probably go debate team because the legal team is way too professional for this podcast. Um, and we will represent the NFC, and Chris and Pat will represent the AFC. So I'm happy to see that we're kind of on the same page with our picks. So that'll make it easier as we go along. But I think we're going to wrap it up there. I think this is really good. I obviously appreciate you coming on, Kev. Do you have any last words before, next week when you come back on?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me again. I'm looking forward to talking more about the NFC.
Yep.
I appreciate you picking the Rams.
Like,
I'm obviously rooting for them. I'm obviously cheering for them, but for the sake of discussion,
yep.
love talking all fairness in football.
Gotta
be true to my word.
I couldn't pick against the Rams twice, in one season, to you. That wouldn't be right. Although next week, if they win this week, next week I'm probably not going to pick them. But we could save that till then. Kev, I appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram, @the_on the bench, Twitter @the UTB. We will see you next time. Peace out, Kev.